Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the French Tier 8 Premium Medium Tank, the M4A1 Revalorise. Now this is a medium tank that has a 105mm gun, it's got APCR standard, and it's got 390 Alpha, which is really nice. And actually I think this was one of the first premiums that came out that was a medium tank that had 390 Alpha, and it was really nice to have back in the day. Now, the gun was a bit derpy at times, which was quite frustrating, and it's not the fastest in the universe, so you really had to position yourself quite well, and you had to play it more like a tank destroyer than anything, really. And even so, now it's still the same. But having that 390 Alpha on a medium tank was really nice. It always made pretty damn decent credits. And to have that APCR shell velocity at 1460 meters a second on the standard APCR was absolutely beautiful. Because it means you didn't have to lead your targets too much, really, at distance. And it just tends to fly so fast. And it was a thing of beauty. This 105 is quite nice. Now, back when this first came out, it did only have, I think it was either 6 or 8 degrees of gun depression. I feel like it was 8 degrees of gun depression that this tank had. Then they buffed, which was, it was okay, but it was a little bit of a letdown sometimes. And then they buffed it up to 10 degrees, and the 10 degrees of gun depression you have on this tank is actually really nice. It's just a really decent medium tank. It's not spectacular. It's basically just not brilliant. It's okay. And the problem with the M4A1 Revalorise and the Super Sherman as well, because if you didn't know, I'm going to point it out as I always do when I make a video on either of the two tanks. They're basically the same tank, except for the Super Sherman has a better top speed than the M4A1 Revalorise at 43, as opposed to the Revalorise having a 40km an hour top speed. But the Rev actually has a better engine power, so it hits the top speed better, and I think it has better ground resistances as well. And that's pretty much the only difference, other than the fact that the Super Sherman also looks pretty dang awesome. But in terms of the way they play, it's pretty similar. And yeah, the thing with the Revalorise / Super Sherman is that there is a lot of tanks that have come out since that do sort of what the Revalorise does, but just kind of better, right? And I always point to something like the King Dragon. Something like the King Dragon or the Type 59-2, because they basically have 7 degrees gun depression, so 3 degrees less than this, but they have armour in the fact that, you can bounce stuff off the turret, the upper plate's decent, you can side scrape with them, and they've basically got the same gun. Now, the drawbacks of the gun is that you have 200 pen on the APCR rounds, which is a little bit of a letdown at times against tier 9s and 10s, and you have 250 pen on the heat rounds, which, yeah, 250 pen on the heat rounds is fine, but when you're facing a lot of the heavily armoured tanks at tier 10, it's not quite as nice, and the fact that the 200 APCR pen will struggle against some of the heavily armoured tanks in their sides, let alone their fronts. When you need to pen them in the side, the heat rounds just get absorbed by spaced armour because lol at times, and it can be pretty dang frustrating. But on the whole, I do like the Rev. I do enjoy playing the Rev. I just feel like there is actually better out there, and there's tanks out there that, do similar jobs, but for about the same price pretty much, and are probably just as fun, if not more fun, like the King Dragons or the Type 59-2. But it doesn't mean that the tank's bad. It's just that it's got drawbacks that I wish it had. The penetration is definitely one that lets it down a little bit, and the fact that you're as big as a house, which means you're really easy to hit and pen. Derp guns love you, and you're not very mobile, so it's something you've just got to bear in mind, that you definitely need to play this thing a bit more like a tank destroyer. So in terms of a crew on the Revalorise, well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Track Mechanics, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Camouflage Expertise. Now I run Camouflage Expertise because I'm a medium tank and we don't have the best camo in the universe, so I do want to try and make it better, so that's what I do. The 3 gun perks, because this gun, like I say, even though you do have 0.34 accuracy and you have a 2.3 second aim time, the gun can at times troll the living hell out of you. It will decide, you know what, I just don't want to hit any of these shots, and it will miss them all with impunity, and it's really frustrating. So I want to make sure that this gun is as good as it humanly can be. That's a nice blind shot. And yeah, I want to make sure that this gun is as good as it humanly can be, as good as it's going to ever be, so it can hit all the shots I want it to. And then in terms of equipment, I run the Advanced Loader to make my DPM 10% better, as always. The Vertical Stabilizers to make this gun, like I say, as good as possible, because it can be really extremely troll. And the optics to be able to spot for myself, because I want to make sure that my view range, which at I think it's 390 base, I can push that up to as high as I possibly can with stuff like situational awareness, situational awareness, sorry, recon, that's going way back. Situational awareness, born leader, optics, you know, make that as good as it humanly can be, and I can actually get some decent spotting on certain maps and stuff like that, and I'm never going to get outspotted myself. So as you can see, this first game, we are on this map, which is Kaunas. We're on Kaunas, and we've got 3.5k damage and 646 assistance. And we are in a tier 10 game, which is always obviously not great for a tier 8 medium tank, but we've done pretty well so far. Most of the hit points we lost were literally in the first minute when we lost it to a 704. And yeah, so far we're doing okay. This CS63 is in front of me, and that is not the best thing in the world for me because he has the same alpha, but he has way better DPM. So I kind of need a bit of help here. I need someone to cover for me. The CS63 though, if is backing up. He's not attacking me because I do have 2 tank destroyers behind me, which is what I'm feeling is probably a deterrent because he's probably seen someone get shot by them, and therefore, in fact, no, he just tried to come around the rock the other side. He ends up losing most of his hit points there, and what I decided to do is I'm going to break contact, but, well, I didn't need to because the Centurion ends up shutting down the CS63 anyway. I was going to break contact so the guy wasn't proxy spotting me anymore, and then I was going to try and sneak up and then get the final kill shot in. I am being careful because we know there's a Panzer Knacker up there somewhere. As you can see, the APCR flying, who could quite easily kill me. That thing reloads very, very quickly, and it's got a very fast-firing autoloader. So in one clip, that Panzer Knacker will quite easily kill me, and I don't want to deal with that. But I decided, okay, you know what? Screw it. Boost with food. We're going. Because he was clearly looking down the 9-0. If I can spot him up, hopefully something will shoot him. And thus the AVRE comes to my rescue, feeds me some assistance, and shuts that guy down. Now the MXM454 is the only one left alive on the enemy team, and we are going to go in on this guy. I'm like, you know what? Let's try and get a shot into his side. Cheeky shot side there, and it's like, thank you. Thank you, Mr. MXM454. He doesn't get a shot into his in return. I'm thinking, can I jump on this guy? You know what? Come on, Mr. 54. Back up to this rock. I want to jump on you. Oh, no. Oh, no. Thankfully, he gets shut down by the AVRE, which means we don't finish the game with egg on our face, which is great. And we're finished with the victory. 1 kill, 3.9k damage, 2.6k assistance nearly. The ace tanker, the Confederate. And we finish with the 2049 base XP. A really nice game for the M4A1 Revalorise in a tier 10 game on Kaunas. It's always nice to have that sort of game in the Rev, really. Or in any tier 8, to be fair, where, you know, you're against a fair few tier 10s. You end up brawling against a fair few tier 10s, and you come out better off, essentially, and come out with, you know, a really quite nice game. And we're into the second replay, and the second replay here is on Prokhorovka, which is always really nice for a tank that has good gun depression, has pretty decent view range and stuff like that. And especially if you've got something like that hits, you know, fairly hard. Because the thing is with the Revalorise, naturally, this thing doesn't reload very, very quickly at all. Which means that you can just poke over, pop a shot, pull back, and then you're not having to expose yourself all that much to do a big slug of damage. It's not like playing a tank with 240 alpha where you have to keep poking over consistently to get damage. You don't expose yourself all that much, and thus it sort of aids itself to you, really. And the fact you've got the shell velocity as well really does help to get those quick shots snapped into people as well, like the light tanks that roam these ridges, which means you can do some pretty nice damage. And you don't have to lead the shells too much, and you don't have the weird loopy mechanic sometimes that happens with tanks with slower shell velocities, where, you know, the shell just loops over the ridgeline and just skips the tank. It's nice to have all that for the Rev. And obviously 10 degrees of gun depression as well means that you don't have to over-peak all that much, really, to get your gun down on target. And it is a very tier 10 game, yet again. And we're already up to 1200 damage with 850 assistance. And we're just using this position here at F3, which is one that I tend to take quite often, because from this position at F3, you can spot down the 2 line, you can basically spot the whole E-line ridge. And if you've got enough people camping behind you, you can get some pretty damn decent assistance too. So we're trying to get a shot into the tusk, but unfortunately this shot misses. Realistically, I want to try and get rid of that light tank if I can, and that AVRE is also priority target numero uno, because we don't want to get AVRE'd. He ends up being tracked on top of the ridgeline, takes a hit, and he gets shut down. We just about avoid the artillery hit, and now that AVRE is gone, that's great, because we're not going to get one shot by the one-shot brigade. And now we poke over, spot a Leopard PTA, get a shot into him, and we bounce something that was firing APCR at us from about C1 there, which is what I try and ping. I think that was probably a bat chat, looking at what was on the enemy team listings. So we do have to be very, very careful here, because we're going to probably get out-spotted and out-detected quite easily by something like a bat chat sat at D1, and he will get shots into us. And I mean, realistically, the bat chat doesn't even have to spot us, because we're being spotted by the people that are on the ridgeline. We're up to 2,000 damage with 1,100 assistance, and I'm still determined that I'm going to try and poke over and spot these guys down the one line, hope that my friends will shoot them if they can, and feed us some assistance. You never know, if we're poking that bat chat fires, we might actually spot the bat chat. It's not always a perfect thing, but you never know. And there we go, we end up spotting the Leopard PTA, in fact. And that's what it was. That's what it was that was shooting at us from D1. I thought it was something like a bat chat because it was firing APCR, but I didn't think that the Leopard PTA had actually moved on from where I shot him earlier on. And we're playing a dangerous game, if I'm honest, because the artillery is just raining the shots in towards us. He really wants us. He's like, I want you. I really, really want you. No, I don't want your love, Mr. Artillery. I just don't want it. And to that end, I go, yeah, no, this position's done for me. I'm not sitting around getting arted. It just keeps happening. There's no point sitting there anymore. We're just going to change up our position on the ridgeline. And here we go. The Tusk comes storming in. We get a shot into the Tusk. He gets tracked, which means he loses most of his momentum, crashes into the rocket. It's like, can we finish this Tusk off? Be great to get the light tank out of the game. And he actually gets shut down by our bat chat. Great. Now the 705A is moving in down the one line. And the Leopard PTA gets spotted. So we slap another shot into the PTA there. And we're just keeping ourselves moving, ducking and dodging, dipping and diving on this ridgeline. We're not making ourselves an easy target, and we're trying to just assess where we need to keep our gun firing. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change position on this ridgeline again, so that I can actually get into a better position to shoot this 705A. Now with APCR, we're not going to pen the 705A, so we need to switch to heat rounds. We end up getting spotted and detected quickly, which is not good, but we have the heat round nearly loaded. We fire the shell straight through the side of that 705A's turret and shut it down. We were never penning it with APCR there, so we had to wait for the heat round to load, and therefore we got the kill on that guy. Now we're going to poke over and try and get the tracking shot into this T62A, but unfortunately we fired just a split second too late, and that means we ricochet off his upper plate. And we're going to poke over now and shut down this Emil 1. Slam the shot straight through the back of his turret, and we're up to 4,000 damage with 1,200 assistance, and the tanks are starting to get spotted. And in fact, you know what? With a Canoni Jagdpanzer 105 back there that's just got spotted at D1, he could have also been one of the tanks that was firing at us from the back blind that, you know, whiffed an APCR shot at us. But now we know that their cover is starting to disappear down that one line. Or should I say the cover for this T62A, there is nothing left. So I can just keep being cheeky, keep poking over and slapping the shot into this T62A. I know I'm not going to get slapped from anywhere else now. And it's just a case of keeping pulling back and using my hit points now to get the shots into this T62A. Because at this point, we're trading 1 for 1. He's not going to be able to get any... Well, he's not going to be able to use his fantastic DPM against me. And we've finished the game with a really nice total for the Revalorise. So finished with the victory, 3 kills, 5.5k damage, 1,200 assistance, the Ace Tanker, the Confederate, the High Caliber, 2.3k base XP. A really nice game again for the Revalorise in a tier 10 game. The Revalorise, it's a nice tank. The Super Sherman was always one of my favourites from back in the day because it had that 390 Alpha. But the Revalorise is just as decent as that tank. I say they're not outstanding tanks, but they are pretty decent to use for slapping with that APCR round. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!